Hey, welcome to Kevin Elworth Unplugged, where we talk about life, leadership, and all the things in between. I am Kevin Elworth, and I am going to lead you in a discussion today about focusing on your problems. And honestly, the problem with focusing on your problems is that it can lead to total failure. I'm not sure if you knew that or recognized that or not. Honestly, the operative mentality we have in life as we come up against problems is that we will begin to think that, man, as soon as I get this problem figured out or resolved, then life will be easier. I can go back to productivity. We can get back to profitability. We can get back to like the heightened awareness of ministry and all those different things. But what you find is when you focus on those problems, you end up just kind of getting into this resolve of never ending problems. I mean, how many of you have used the language before that, man, I'm just putting out fires? I met with the CEO of a pretty prominent nonprofit organization here in our community just a little while back. And that's the language that he was using, is that, man, I feel like all I'm doing is putting out fires. And I feel overwhelmed. I feel exhausted. I feel like we can't get traction. We can't move ahead because there constantly is this element of it's just all problems. Man, I get it. I understand it. And the issue with it is that as we continually focus on problems, it eventually leads to total failure. And so what I want to do today, I want to give you three things. I want to give you three tools, three simple filters you need for handling problems in business and ministry. This kind of became a thing for me recently over the last year as I've been working with a lot of different pastors and ministry leaders and even just, aspiring entrepreneurs as a whole, because inevitably these problems they're going to rise up, and they get frustrated with feeling like they're a firefighter. You're like carrying their firefighter gear all over the place. When I was, when my son was younger, Austin, he was a fanatic when it came to firefighting. He had his own little firefighter outfit. Somebody had given him a real firefighter helmet. It was a little bit disfigured, and I wondered if it actually had been in a fire. It looked like it had been melted a little bit. I'm not sure if these things could melt. I think it was made out of leather, so maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. We don't have it anymore, but it was a little disfigured, and so I'm like, something wrong with that. And then at one point along the way, someone had actually given him several fire hoses, these monstrous, 3-inch lines that would be hooked up to a fire hydrant or whatever else. And so he'd have these fire hoses, and he'd run over, he'd run all over our yard and pretend like he's putting out fires. And it was so cute to just watch him along the way. He had gotten so good at like his fire truck noises that he could do this in the back of the car, and you would literally think that there's a fire truck pulling up next to you or alongside of you. I mean, I remember, like, we would look around and be like, where's the fire truck at? And no, it's just Austin making these noises. It was hilarious to go through this phase. Now, we joke with him because that phase is long since gone now, and he does not do that anymore. The fire hat has gone somewhere else, and we got rid of the fire hoses somewhere along the way because I really was tired of them just being around, and he just kind of lost interest in those kind of things. Let me just emphasize this: no one wants to be a firefighter unless they're a firefighter. For you in business, for you in ministry, for you doing what you do not want to reduce your life down to the point of I'm just dealing with problems all day. You don't want to do that. You want to be in the space where you're making headway, where you're advancing. Let's face it, when problems arise, it's literally you, like if vision is focused this direction, it's literally you stopping and focusing the exact opposite direction and saying, okay, I've got to fix that thing, because the perceived reality is that thing is keeping me from going where I want to go. And it's actually a lie. It may not be keeping you from that. Here's the thing I want to tell you today. Okay, and then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. When you center on your problems, you maybe emphasize the word may, in your mind, bold and italics, underlined, emphasized. You may only resolve your problem. Maybe. It's not a guarantee. But if you focus on your desired outcome, your problem will usually resolve itself. Now, there are obviously exceptions to this kind of rule or law that I'm instating for you today. But this is why like problems arise. In other words, in life and culture today, people want to make a problem to keep you from where you're going. This is what lawsuits are. This is what, so many different things. Lawsuits is the one that comes to my mind because it's the one that I hear quite frequently about when it comes to people in business. And several of my business people that I'm working with right now are dealing with lawsuits. And I'm like, oh, I'm so frustrated alongside of them because it's trying to hold them back. It's diverting their attention. It's diverting a ton of their resources from going after and from becoming what they want to do. Are these legitimate things? Not really. It's just the fact that in our culture today, you can sue anybody for anything. And so naturally it becomes this fear-based thing. It's igniting a fear inside of someone to try to keep them from going after what they want to go. So if you focus on your problems, eventually you will get tired of just being a firefighter. And so what do? You quit. You give up. You're like, man, this is not worth it anymore. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to go back to the safety of whatever it is. I'm going to quit doing what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to resort back to who I used to be or what I used to do and all those things. And that's not what you want for you. That's not it. It's about the fact that you want to stay doing what you're doing. You want to stay passionate about who you're becoming. So here's a couple of things that I want to just kind of put in front of you today. As a visionary leader, your primary calling is vision clarity and enhancement. Those two things, vision clarity and enhancement. How do you enhance the vision? How do you continue to move it forward? Vision clarity and enhancement. Where do you fit problems in vision clarity and enhancement? Obviously, there's going to be times that you have to deal with some problems. I get that. But if it's keeping you, if your primary purpose in your life and in your business and in your ministry, especially ministry, if that becomes, I'm just dealing with people's problems, or I'm dealing with the problems of the ministry itself, or I'm dealing with the problems of whatever, other people, if that becomes your primary objective, your primary task, if you look through your schedule, backtrack your schedule and you look through and you analyze, what did I do this week? What was my time spent on? If your time is more spent on problem solving, then I tell you, your vision is losing. And as we've learned from so many different people, I believe Andy Stanley says that vision leaks. In other words, it's never contained in form. You can't put it in a water bottle and contain it there and come back to it a year later and expect to see the same vision there. If you're not pouring into the vision, eventually the vision is going to leak out and people are going to be like, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we accomplishing? And this adds to what I see is like the number one threat of business and ministry today. It's a retention problem. Retention is the great enemy of the 21st century. If you can't find and keep great people, you will fail. You will fail at so many different things. In fact, if I can pull this up, if it's still here, I was just looking for like great quotes from John Maxwell, and I found one, and he has in a book that is one of my favorite books, Developing the People Around You, mostly because I feel like that's really like my core purpose, my core calling in life is, let me see if I can find this. Where did this go? Man, I can't find it. It's right here. I know I even have this page pulled up still. But it literally was that mentality. It's literally along the lines of finding great people and keeping those great people. Because if you cannot find and keep good people, you will lose out. You will lose out on so many different things. So let's stay on point here. Let's get where we want to go and do what we need to do. Okay. So here's the thing. Problems are solely a distraction from your desired outcome. And here's the thing. I'm going to give you these three filters that you need to have when it comes to figuring out what to do with the problems that are in front of you. But before that, I want to give you, I want to tell you a little bit about my business and what I do. So one of my favorite things, one of my primary products in my business, Kevin Elworth Coaching today, is I have a coaching package that is designed around clarity. Clarity is, and here's what I want to ask you, is the vision for your life or for your ministry, is it crystal clear? Because here's the thing, if it is not crystal clear to you, it will never be crystal clear to anyone else around you. And so, even in that sentence, there's obscurity. What does that mean? What does it mean to have a vision for my life, for my ministry, for my business? Is it crystal clear? In other words, here's the thing. Here's a great analyzing tactic for this. Are you going to end up in 5 or 10 years at the exact place that you intend to, or will you be surprised or disappointed where you end up? Think about that for just a minute. If you were to talk to your future self 10 years down the road, would you be like, yep, that's exactly where I intended to arrive? Or would you be disappointed and say, I thought of so much more. I wanted so much more. And I work with couples doing pre-marriage counseling. I'm doing my last wedding ceremony here in just a couple months. So I'm working on this last pre-marriage counseling series that I go through. And I always ask the question, tell me what you want life to look like in 20 years. And imagine this, this is a very young couple. They're like just barely out of their 20s or into their 20s. And, they're very young at life right now. And so I always use this phrase, like, imagine this, in 20 years, you could have a 20-year-old kid who's graduating from college or graduating from high school, getting ready for college, or whatever the case may be. And you always like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Here's the thing. We underestimate what we can accomplish in that amount of time. And so I always ask them, well, what do you want in 20 years? What does your life look like? And they're like, well, we have bought a house and we have a kid and we have a career. And they're generalizing, because what it always points to me is that we really have no idea what's going to happen in 20 years. And I always tell them this. Like, here's the thing. What you just described to me in a 20-year goal, you can accomplish in the next 2.5 to 3 years. You've got to really get aggressive on who you want to become, because if you're not clear on who you want to become, you will never accomplish what you want to do. When you think through that idea, surprised or disappointed, you might be surprised to know that very few people actually have any vision for their lives beyond the present reality. In other words, the scope of time that they can see, the next week or 2 weeks or months, or maybe to the end of the year. Clarity is so tough to get to. In a ministry world, in a business world, if you don't have clarity, you are floundering. To get to the success and the vibrancy you want, you need clarity. So here's what I've done. I've put together a 6-month coaching program that walks you into clarity. By the end of this 6 months, you will be so crystal clear on what you want to do, on who you want to become, and on what you want to experience. You won't even recognize the person you used to be. This program is guaranteed to move you down the path of experience, regardless of what you are currently involved with, whether it's business or ministry. And here's the thing, in the show notes below, you're going to find a link for us to set up a discovery call and take the next right step toward the clarity of your future. I always say it in terms that, you have to determine that you want what comes from your future self. But if you don't know what that is, you will never get it. So let's begin to put a finger on it and decide today what the 10-year you looks like, and what it's accomplishing, and what you're experiencing, what you're earning, what you have, what you've done, what you believe, and all these different things. Let's work on that today. Scroll down, bottom of the show notes today. Click on that link that says, let's schedule the discovery call and let's have a conversation today. All right, so 3 filters for handling problems. Number 1, get clarity. So this is what I'm already talking about here. Get clarity. I love this little thumbs up thing it does right here. Get clarity. Ask for help. If you cannot get clarity on this, then you've got to stop and you got to ask for help. I got some scripture I want to weave into the process here. It's Proverbs 11:14, which says, "Where there is no counsel, the people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety." One of the things that I'm working on right now, I'm working on a pastoral avatar, a ministry avatar for the person that I want to work directly with when it comes to people in ministry. And one of the things I'm confronting right now is there's a lot of pride in ministry that I didn't see there. I wasn't aware that it was there. As pastors, we are tempted to believe that I know it all. I'm called to this. And so here's the two things that we face. I only need my connection to God or the Spirit, and that's it. As long as I have my Bible in front of me and I can have the Spirit of God speaking into me, that's all I need. But as you look through the Word of God, you find an infinite source of people who came alongside and helped someone else get to where they needed to go next. Do not be deceived to think that you are the be-all, end-all. You don't know everything you need to know. What was that verse? In a multitude of counselors, there is safety, there is security, there is surety, there is help and hope and prosperity and provision and all the things that you are missing or are even in awareness that you have or that you need right now. You've got to ask for help. Analyze in the scope of your vision and desired outcome. Analyze the problem in the scope of your vision and desired outcome. In other words, you're filtering, right? You're looking through a lens at the problem and saying, does this actually coincide with my vision, with what we're going to, or with what we're facing, or is it a distraction from it? And here's what I've recognized in my ministry season and in my leadership and my business stuff. People will bring you problems just because it's their problem. It doesn't mean that it's your problem. It doesn't even mean that you have to focus on it. It just means that they have a problem and it needs to be fixed. But that doesn't mean it's something that you have to do. You've got to look at that and say, does fixing this thing, does focusing on this, does spending any time or resources on that thing help our vision move forward? Because if the answer is no, then it's not your problem. And you need to sympathize, give them some empathy, and walk away. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to know what you're after, because if you don't know what you're after, you will not know what to say no to. You will say yes to everything. So, get clarity. The problem may not be a problem at all. If someone is bringing you what they feel is a problem, but it doesn't fit the scope of your vision, they're simply making their problem your problem. So, filter number one, get clarity. Analyze through it. Ask some questions about it. What is this problem? Does it fit with the future of our entity, our business, our ministry, or my life in general? Is it clear? Because if it's not my problem, then I'm not sure I need to focus on it. Number two, if you analyze that and you're like, yes, this is something we need to deal with, then number two, get determination. Get determined. Making fast decisions is one of the single best things that you can have. In fact, Napoleon Hill said it this way: successful people make decisions quickly, as soon as all the facts are available, and they change them very slowly, if ever. Make your decision as soon as you have the information necessary to go about it. Make your decision. But then at the same time, you kind of need to analyze as I go along. Have I made the right decision? Do I need to change my decision? Do I need to, alter the course of my decision? But remember what he said: successful people make decisions quickly, as soon as all the facts are available, and they change them very slowly, if ever. In other words, you need to be very sure before you make that decision that it's the right decision to make. So make a fast decision. It's the single best decision you can make when it comes to navigating through your problems. Get determined. And then secondly, underneath that is avoid procrastination. I've already told you before, I love this idea of I have really centered on procrastination. It was like one of my biggest nemesis problems in my life, leading up to where I am today. I was a procrastinator on every level. I didn't want to deal with any problems. I didn't want to do anything because I just got scared. I was fearful. I was so wrecked with fear. I was procrastinating on every level. And I'm surprised I'm not dead or lost in a gutter somewhere. I thank my wife profusely at this point for her patience and her kindness and her help. But I was a procrastinator to the T. And what I recognized was that procrastination is simply avoidance. It's the worst thing ever. What I've also learned in the wake since then is that if you can minimize procrastination out of your life altogether, it will propel you to this probably the single best advancement, profitability, prosperity, ministry movement that you could ever have. If you can focus on procrastination and get it out of your life. So avoid procrastination at all costs. Get rid of it. It has got to be eliminated from your life. Not minimized, not handled, eliminated. It's got to be gone. You're not procrastinating on anything anymore. I got a couple other verses here, and I'm not quite sure where to weave them in, but going back to the clarity thing, the Proverbs 27:9, the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel. You've got to have those people in your life. And one of these things would be like a mastermind principle where you're a part of a pocket of people who are trusted and that you can go to them. And this is one reason why I put together a network. I call it an entrepreneur's network, and I may get to a spot where I want to rebrand that, but that's literally what that is. It's a pocket of people who are trusted and trustworthy and are committed to advancement and each other's help. You need to be a part of something like that. So the sweetness of a friend comes from his earnest counsel. One of my favorite verses right now: trust in the Lord with all of your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. I am also convinced at this place that I'm not quite sure we know what trust in the Lord is. If we don't have an element of uncertainty in our life, we're not trusting in the Lord. We're trusting in ourselves. We're trusting in our own effort. We're trusting in our own ability. So trust in the Lord with all of your heart and do not lean in your own understanding. And then the last one, James 1:5, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. So we need to ask. We need to ask for what those things are. And then we need to take the steps that he's going to take. Here's the thing. When you ask for wisdom, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to get crystal clarity from the Spirit of God right then. Or God's going to bring a new relationship into your life, a new person that's going to help you get where you need to go. Do not avoid the people. The problem is that we've become so skeptic in our lives. We've become so disgruntled in our lives that we are afraid of what people might want to take from us. They're not wanting to take anything from you. We're afraid that everyone in our story or in our proximity is out to take away from us, and they're not. There are genuinely good and kind people who want to help you enhance your life and get to the place where you want to go. But because of our skepticism, we are minimizing them. And how do you know? It's this verse from Hebrews 13. How do you not know that you've entertained angels without knowing it? Now, I think we think in terms of an angelic presence, but hello, couldn't it be that the person that God just brought to you is an angel? Can't they be angelic too? Can't this be the provision that you exactly need in the moment that you needed it, and it's getting you to the spot where you wanted to go? And sure, it's going to cost you something, and it's going to take some resources away from you and from you, but this is the circumference of provision. This is what God wants. It's a continuity loop. You got to invest in to be able to get out. And so get determination, make quick decisions, the right quick decisions, avoid procrastination. And then number 3, stay on point, which in my continuity loop, it goes back to clarity. I love this quote from John Maxwell. I've already said one from John Maxwell, but he's my mentor and all. You don't overcome challenges by making them smaller, but by making yourself bigger. Woo! And then here's another one. I didn't realize there was 2 when I copied this. You must manage your thought life daily, and then you can manage your life. As I the older I get and the more I kind of walk and learn and talk and teach and all those things, the more I realize that your thoughts are everything. Your mindset is the most important thing that you have. Last night as we were going to bed, my wife and I always have some kind of a debrief conversation, and sometimes I'm too tired to handle it. Last night was one of those nights. I was so tired. I had the worst stomach ache last night too. I don't know what that was from, but so I'm like, balled up in pain, and I'm just trying to resolve this. And she's wanting to talk and all these things, and so she just asked me. She's like, "How's your thoughts today?" And I was very honest with her. I said, "You know what?" I said, "It was kind of a tough day for me. I feel a little bit lost in some things that I'm doing right now, and I'm not feeling like I've got crystal clarity in it." And I said, "But here's the thing. I know what to do when I get to that spot. I know the sources to go back to. I know the voices that I can trust. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is just some YouTube talk. I know the people that are going to speak or preach truth into my life in that moment. And I went to one of those voices and I listened to him talk to me. It's not like he doesn't know who I am. In fact, maybe I'll meet him. I will meet him. In fact, I'm going to testify and declare that I will meet this man. We will have lunch together or something. But I invited him to speak into my life over YouTube. How do I invite him? I pushed play on his video and I let him speak into my life, and I got clarity of thought. You see, when you start investing in your own mentality and your own mindset, you don't have to have moments of discouragement. You don't have to be defeated. You don't have to have moments of fear. You have to know what to do when those moments arise and take command of your thought. For me, this is 2 Corinthians 10:5 in a whole new light. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. What does that mean? But also the opposite, that your thoughts can take you captive and make it obedient to fear. That's the contrast that you're dealing with here. That's the law of polarity that's in effect, is that if our thoughts can be taken captive and made obedient to Christ, then that also means that our thoughts can take us captive and make us obedient to fear. And I don't want to be on this side of that. So how do you do that? You start getting in command and control of your thoughts and pointing them back into the direction of where you need to go. Your belief system is everything. And at some point, probably, in fact, one of our upcoming podcasts, we will talk about belief systems and what to do with that and what you should be believing and how you need to be navigating through it. All right. Enough for today. Thanks for enjoying a cup of coffee with me. It's been a pleasure. If you ever really want to have coffee with me, I am up for that, whether it's virtual or live and in person. Don't hesitate to let me know. In the meantime, I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. I'm here to inspire. If there is something that I can do for you, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. Until then, I look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great day.